everybody's having a good day. Maybe just a little bit. How is everyone? Oh, there's Akka. Hey, Akka. Hi. Yeah, I know this stream was a bit last minute. I know. Trust me, it was not meant to be like that. Oh, Puggy. Sorry, this is a bit different from what I usually do. I kind of not in any mood to play video games or anything. More in the mood to just sit here, talk to you guys, rest a little bit. Especially since I'm kind of sick. I felt like this would have been a nice stream to like cozy, relax, fun. It's 10 p.m. my time, so probably sleepy time for you guys. Live imposter. What am I impostering about? How am I the imposter when you're the imposter? I know, right? It's almost like I am venting or something, you know? Haha, I'm a sussy baka or something. Haha, funny. So, we're going to read a couple poems. I just wanted to talk to you guys, see how everybody was doing. I know that I was meant to play Dead Space today, and I apologize. I have the flu right now, so kind of dead, but also I wanted to put something out for you guys. So now we read the poem Ukulele. I dwelt alone in a world of moan, as my soul was a stagnant tide, till the fair and gentle Eulalie became my blushing bride. Till the yellow-haired young Eulalie became my smiling bride. Ah, less bright, the stars of the night, the eyes of the radiant girl, and never a flake that the vapor can make. With the moon tints of purple and pearl, can vie with the modest Eulalie's most unregarded curl, can compare with the bright-eyed Eulalie's most humble and careless curl. Yes, no bang today, guys. Sorry. Now doubt, now pain, come never again, for her soul gives me sigh for sigh, while all day long shines bright and strong the starry within the sky. And ever to her dear Eulalie upturns her matron eye, and ever to her young Eulalie upturns her violet eye. Hello, Virus, by the way. It's nice to see you, darling. Sorry for the bit of soft-spoken, calm stream. This next one is called A Valentine. At a Valentine's soiree in New York, the following enigmatical the verses were enclosed in an envelope addressed to her, whose as to find her name written in it, the Valentine remained, and still remains unclaimed. Can any of the readers of the flag discover for whom it was intended? That's good. I'm glad, guys. For her, these lines are penned, whose luminous eyes, brightly expressive as the twins of Leda, shall find her own sweet name that nestling lies upon the page, and wrapped from every reader. Search narrowly this rhyme, which holds a treasure divine, a talisman, an amulet that must be worn at heart. Search well the measure, The words, the letters themselves, do not forget the trivialist point, or you may lose your labor. And yet there is in this no Gordian knot, which one might not undo within a sabre, if one could merely understand the plot, and written upon this page whereon are peering such eager eyes there lies. I say Purdue, a well-known name oft uttered in the hearing of poets by poets, as the name is a poet's too. Hi Nazi, how you doing, sweet? Hello, Squid, how are you? Your Riz, darling, do those tentacles spew ink? 'Cause I want to make you ink. As a well-known name uttered in the hearing of poets by poets, as the name is a poet's too. Its letters, although naturally lying, like the night Pinto, Mendes Ferdinando, still form a synonym of truth. Cease trying. You will not read the riddle, though you do the best you can do. This one is. This next one is coming to you. Wow, down batted in my own chest. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you. I was trying to be good. Read something to you guys. This next one is called Yulalume, a ballad. The skies, there were ashen and sober. The leaves, they were crisp and sere. The leaves, they were withering and sere. It was the night in the lonesome October of my most immemorial year. It was hard by the dim lake of Auber, in the misty mid-region of Ware. It was down by a dank tarn of Auber, in the ghoul-haunted woodland of Ware. Here once, though, through an alley titanic of cypress, I roamed with my soul. Of cypress with Psyche, my soul. These were days when my heart was volcanic, and scoriac rivers that roll. As the lavas that restlessly roll their sulphurous currents down your neck. In the ultimate climbs of the pole, the groans as they roll down Mount Unek. In the realms of the boreal pole, our talks had been serious and sober, but our thoughts were palsied and sere. Our memories were treacherous and sere, for we knew not the month was October, and we marked not the night of the year, night of all nights in the year. We noted not the dim lake of Auber, though once we had journeyed down here. We remembered not the dank tarn of Arbor, nor the ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. And now, as the night was sentient, and the star-dials pointed to morn, as the star-dials hinted of morn, at the end of our path a liquid ascent, and nebulous luster was born, out of which a miraculous crescent arose with a duplicate horn, Astartes bediamonded crescent, distinct with its duplicate horn. And I said, she is warmer than Diane. She rolls through the ether of sighs. She revels in a region of sighs. She has seen that the tears are not dry on these cheeks, where the worm never dies. That I'm gonna have to ask you to not. My love, baby. It can probably hear your purring. You're so sweet. Thank you for loving me, my little kitten. It has come within peace of the skies, come up in despite of the lion, to shine on us with her bright eyes. Come up in despite of the lion, to shine on us with her bright eyes. Come up through the lair of the lion, with love in her luminous eyes. But Psyche, uplifting her finger, said, sadly, this star I mistrust, her pallor I strangely mistrust. Oh, hasten, oh, let us not linger, oh, fly, let us fly, for we must. In terror she spoke, letting sink her wings till they trailed in the dust. In agony sobbed, letting sink her plumes till they trailed in the dust. Till they sorrowfully trailed in the dust. I replied, this is nothing but dreaming. Let us on by this tremulous light. Let us bathe in this crystalline light. Its Sibyllic splendor is beaming. With hope and beauty tonight, see, it flickers up in the sky through the night. Aye, we may safely trust to its gleaming, and be sure it will lead us aright. We safely must trust to a gleaming that cannot guide us aright, since it flickers up to heaven through the night. Thus I pacified Psyche and kissed her, and tempted her out of her gloom, and conquered her scruples and gloom. And we passed to the end of the vista, and were stopped by the door of a tomb. Welcome in, Silver Blaze. Thank you for the check-in. By the door of a legend tomb, and I said, what is written, sweet sister, on the door of this legend tomb? She replied, Ulalume, Ulalume, this the vault of thy lost Ulalume. Then my heart, it grew ashen and sober, as the leaves that were crisp and sere, as the leaves that were rising and sere, and I cried, it was surely October, on this very night of last year, that I journeyed down here, that I brought a dread burden down here, on this night of all nights in the year. Oh, what demon tempted me here? Well, I know now. Oh, welcome back. Nice to see you. I'm glad that you're here. Well, now I know this dim lake of Auber, this misty mid-region of Weir. I know now that this dank tarn of Auber, in the ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir, said we then, the two then. Ah, can it have been that the woodlandish ghouls, the pitiful, the merciful ghouls, to bar up her way and to ban it from the secret that lies in these words, from the thing that lies hidden in these wolds, had drawn up in the spectre of a planet from the limbo of lunary souls, this sinfully skilled, indolent planet, good lord, from the hell of the planetary souls. This one is a dream within a dream. Since we're just gonna keep going. Well, Silver Blaze, welcome back. If you haven't joined my Discord, it is for everyone. For those of you here, not here, we are also hosting a giveaway in my server for Sonic Rumble codes, if y'all are interested in that. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, Thus much let me avow, you are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope had flown away in a night or in a day, in a dream or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep. While I weep, while I weep, oh God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? Oh God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? This next one, darlings, is called El Dorado. Gaily bedlight, a gallant night, in sunshine and in shadow, I journeyed long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. But he grew old, this night so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like El Dorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim's shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be? This land El Dorado. Over the moon of the mount, over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride boldly, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for El Dorado. This next one is called Poor Annie. I hope that everyone is having a good time, resting well. Thank heaven the crisis, the danger is past. It's not fireworks, it's actually a bonfire. I figured since the winter season is coming that I'd do a little fireplace-like audio to relax to. Do y'all like the fire? Is the fire too loud, too soft? Do we like the fire? Or would we rather the rain sounds? Thank heaven, the crisis, the danger is past, and the lingering illness is over at last, and the fever called living is ah, fireworks are fun. I mean, isn't I no, there isn't any holidays I don't think soon. Well, enjoy. Oh no, you're hearing the book. Because I turned up the gain on my microphone so I can actually talk better without having to be so close to the mic. So my model functions somewhat alright. Ew, I'm rhyming. Ew, ew. And the fever called living is conquered at last. Sadly I know, I am short of my strength, and no muscle I move, as I lie at full length, but no matter, I feel I am better at length, and I rest so composedly now in my bed, that any beholder might fancy me dead, might start at beholding me, thinking me dead. The moaning and groaning, the sighing and sobbing are quieted now, with that horrible throbbing at heart. Ah, that horrible, horrible throbbing. The sickness, the nausea, the pitiless pain have ceased within the fever that maddened my brain, with the fever called living that burned in my brain. And oh, of all the tortures that torture the worst, has abated the terrible torture of thirst. For the Nephthaline river, a passion accurist, I have drank of a water that quenched all thirst, of a water that flows. Mwah, mwah. Hi, Naughty. I hope you're doing good today. I love you, darling. I hope your day goes well. Mwah. I hope that I am relaxing you as much as this is relaxing me. Of a water that flows with a lullaby sound from a spring but a very few feet underground, from a cavern not very far down underground. And ah, let it never be foolishly said that my room it is gloomy, and narrow my bed, for man never slept in a different bed. And to sleep you must slumber in just such a bed. My tantalized spirit here blandly reposes, forgetting or never regretting its roses, its old agitations of myrtles and roses. For now, while so quietly lying, it fancies a holier odor about it of pansies, a rosemary odor, commingled with pansies, with rue and the beautiful Puritan pansies. And so it lies happily, bathing in many a dream of the truth and the beauty of Annie, drowned in a bath of the tresses of Annie. She tenderly kissed me, she fondly caressed, and then I fell gently to sleep on her breast, deeply to sleep from the heaven of her breast. When the light was extinguished, she covered me warm, she prayed to the angels. Mwah, mwah. I hope you're having fun, V. I'm sorry this isn't a normal stream. I know you want to drive by shooting me, darling. You keep me from harm. To the queen of the angels to shield me from harm. And I lie so composedly now in my bed, knowing her love that you fancy me dead. And now I rest so contently now in my bed, with her love at my breast, that you fancy me dead, that you shudder to look at me, thinking me dead. But my heart, it is brighter than all of the many stars in the sky, for it sparkles with Annie, it glows with the light of the love of my Annie, with the thought of the light of the eyes of my Annie. I'm glad. That's nice. I'm going to take a sip of water real quick, as I do. The next one, by the way, is Annabelle Lee. I'm sure that a lot of people know this one. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabelle Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. She was a child and I was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabelle Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago, in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud by night, chilling my Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know, in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of a cloud, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I see the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night tide I lie down by my side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the side of the sea. The next one, darling, is called The Bells. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells. What a world of merriment their melody foretells. How they tinkle, tinkle, tinkle in the icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and tinkling of the bells. God damn, how many times is it gonna say bells in this damn thing? Alright. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells. What a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight. From the molten golden notes, and in tune, what a liquid ditty flows. To the turtle dove that listens, while she gloats on the moon. Oh, from out the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony, voluminously, God Lord, wells, how it swells, how it dwells, on the future, how it tells, of the rapture that impels to the swinging and ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and chiming of the bells. Hear the out loud alarum bells, brazen bells, what tale of terror now their turbulency tells, in the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright, too much horrified to speak, they can only shriek, shriek out of tune, in a clamorous appealing of the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire, and a resolute endeavor, now, now to sit or never, by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, what a tale their terror tales of despair, how they clang and clash and roar, what a horror they outpour on the bosom of palpitating air. Yet the ear, it fully knows by the twang and the clanging how the danger ebbs and flows. Yet the ear distinctly tells in the jangling and the wrangling how the danger sinks and swells by the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells, of the bells, of the bells, 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 in the clangor of the bells. Hear the tolling of the bells, iron bells. What a world of solemn thought their monody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy meaning of their tone. For every sound that floats, for every from the rust within their throats, is a groan. And the people, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple all alone, and who tolling, 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 in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart of stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human. Good night, show. I hope you have a great night. Rest easy, darling. They are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls. And he rolls, 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 rolls of pain from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells, and he dances and he yells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme, to the paean of the bells, keeping time, 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 in a sort of runic rhyme, to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time, 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 as he knells, 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 in a happy runic rhyme, to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and groaning of the bells. That was a long one, and I think I'm going to crash out if I have to say the word bells again. Oh, that was beautiful. I hope that everyone's having a good time. My stream is kind of exploding a little bit. That's fine, I suppose. This one is one of his autobiographical poems. This one is called Alone. From childhood's hour, I hate you. Bells, 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 I hate you, smash. Lovingly, darling, lovingly. From childhood's hour I have not been. As others were, I have not seen. As others saw, I could not bring. My passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken. My sorrow I could not awaken. My heart to joy at the same time. And all I loved alone. Then, in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life was drawn from every death of good and ill, the mystery which binds me still. From the torrent or the fountain, from the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in its autumn tint of gold, from the lingering in the from the lightning in the sky, it, it passed me flying by, from the thunder and the storm, and the cloud that took the form, when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view. Now we're into this short story section. Yippee! We did it, guys. We made it. This one, I don't know how long it is, nor do I know how fucked up it is, but we're gonna read it anyway. Why? Because that's fun. This one is called Mrs. Found in a Bottle. And there's a quote on the page. I'm gonna try to do this, but I do not speak German, so this quote is probably going to be butchered a bit. Tina plus un moment ad viver na presidien e dissimilar color. That sounded like gibberish. I'm sorry, everyone. That is not my language. Hello, Solid. I hope you're having a good day. Anyways, we will start with Miss Found in a Bottle. Of my country and of my family, I have little to say. Ill usage and length of years have driven me from the one and strangled me from the other. Hereditary wealth afforded me an education of no common order, and a contemplative turn of mind enabled me to methodize the stores which early study very diligently garnered up. Beyond all things, the study of the German moralists gave me great delight, not from any ill-advised admiration of their eloquent madness, but from the ease with which my habits of rigid thought enabled me to detect their falsities. I have often been reproached with the aridity, Lord, of my genius, a deficiency of imagination, had been imputed to me as a crime, and the barrenism of my opinions has at all times rendered me notorious. Indeed, a strong relish for physical philosophy has, I fear, tinctured my mind with a very common error of this age. I mean, the habit of referring occurrences, even the last susceptible of such reference, to the principles of that science. Upon the whole, no person could be less liable than myself to be led away from the severe precincts of truth by the ignis fatui of superstition. I have thought proper to premise thus much, lest the incredible tale I have to tell should be considered rather the raving of a crude imagination than a positive experience of a mind to which the reveries of fancy have been a dead letter and a nullity. After many years spent in foreign travel, I sailed in the year 18 from a port of Batavia in the rich and populous island of Java, on a voyage to the archipelago of the Sunda Islands. I went as a passenger, having no other inducement other than a kind of nervous restlessness which haunted me as a fiend. Our vessel was a beautiful ship of about 400 tons, copper fastened and built at Bombay of Malabar teak. She was freighted with cotton wool and oil from the Laccadive Islands. We had also on board coir, jaggery, tea, coconuts, and a few cases of opium. The stowage was clumsily done, and the vessel consequently shrank. We got under way with a mere breath of wind, and for many days slid along the eastern coast of Java, without any other incident to beguile the monotony of our course than the occasional meeting with some of the small grabs of the archipelago to which we were bound. One evening, leaning over the taffrail, I observed a very singular isolated cloud at the end of it. It was remarkable, as well for its color, as from its being the first we had seen since our departure of Batavia. I watched it attentively until sunset, when it spread all at once to the eastward and westward, skirting in the horizon with a narrow strip of vapor, and looking like a long line of low beach. My notice soon afterwards attracted by the dust red appearance of the moon, and the peculiar character of the sea. The latter was undergoing a rapid change, and the water seemed more than usually transparent, although I could distinctly see the bottom, yet, keeping the lead, I found the ship in 15 fathoms. The air now became intolerably hot, and was loaded with spiral exhalations similar to those arising from heat iron. As night came on, every breath of wind died away, and in more entire calm it is impossible to conceive. The flame of a candle burned upon the poop without the least perceptible motion, and a long hair, held between the finger and thumb, hung without the possibility of detecting a vibration. However, as the captain said, he could perceive no indication of danger, and thus we were drifting in bodily to shore. He set the sails to be furled, and the anchor let go. No watch was set, and the crew, consisting principally of Malays, stretched themselves deliberately upon deck. I went below, not without a full presentiment of evil. Indeed, every appearance warranted me in apprehending a simoom. I told the captain my fears, but he paid no attention to what I said, and left me without deigning to give a reply. My uneasiness, however, prevented me from sleeping, and about midnight I went upon deck. As I placed my foot upon the upper step of the companion ladder, I was startled by a loud humming noise, like that occasioned by the rapid revolution of a mill wheel, and before I could ascertain its meaning, I found the ship quivering to its center. In the next instant, a wilderness of foam hurled us upon our beam ends, and rushing over us fore and aft, swept the entire deck from stem to stern. I The extreme fury of the blasted proved, in a great measure, the salvation of the ship. Although completely waterlogged, yet, as her masts had gone by the book. She rose, after a minute, heavily from the sea, and staggering a while beneath the immense pressure of the tempest, finally righted. By what miracle I escaped destruction, it is impossible to say, stunned by the shock of the water. I found myself, upon recovery, jammed in between a stern post and rudder. With great difficulty, I gained my feet, and looking dizzily around, was at first struck with the idea of our being among the breakers so terrific. Beyond the wildest imagination was the whirlpool of mountainous and foaming ocean within which we were engulfed. After a while, I heard the voice of an old Swede who had shipped with us at the moment of our leaving port. I hallooed him. I hallooed to him with all my strength, and presently he came reeling aft. We soon discovered that we were the sole survivors of the accident. All on deck, with the exception of ourselves, had been swept overboard. The captain and mate must have perished as they slept, for the cabins were deluged with water. Without assistance, we could expect to do little for the security of the ship, and our exertions were at first paralyzed by the momentary expectation of going down. Our cable had of course parted like a pack thread at the first breath of the hurricane, or should have been instantaneously overwhelmed. We scudded with the frightful velocity before the sea, and the water made clear breaches over us. The framework of our stern had shattered excessively, and in almost every respect we had received considerable injury. But to our extreme joy, we found the pumps unchoked, and that we had made no great shifting of our ballast. The main fury of the blast had already blown over, and we apprehended little danger from the violence of the wind. But we looked forward to its total cessation with dismay, well believing that in our shattered condition we should inevitably perish in this tremendous swell which would ensue. But this very just apprehension seemed by no means likely to be soon verified. For 5 days, for 5 entire days, during which our only subsistence was a small quantity of yagari, or yagiri, I don't know how to pronounce that word, procured with great difficulty from the forecastle. Welcome. Yeah, congratulations on the 15th streak. The Hulk flew at a rate defying computation before rapidly succeeding falls of the wind, which, without equaling the first violence of the simoom, were still more terrific than any tempest I had encountered. Our courses for the first 4 days was, with trifling variations, SE and by S, and yay, head pass, thank you. And we must have run down the coast of New Holland. On the 5th day, the cold became extreme. Although the wind had hauled round a point more to the northward, the sun arose with a sickly yellow luster, and clambered a very few degrees above the horizon emitting no decisive light. There were no clouds apparent, yet the wind was upon the increase, and blew with a fitful, unsteady fury. About noon, as nearly we could. Oh, hello, hi everyone. Hello, welcome in, Raiders. We are just reading, everyone. Hi. I hope that everybody's having a great day. Thank you for the follow, sweetheart. I am Nanami Eiko. I am your siren of the sea. It is a pleasure to meet you. Welcome in, welcome in. What? Sorry for the jump scare, everyone. Let me do my shout out for this sweetheart here. How was your stream? What were you doing, darling? Welcome, welcome. It is a pleasure. It is a pleasure that you have entrusted me with your community. I am sorry for lullaby ASMR. My day is going well, everyone. We are reading Mist Found in a Bottle by Edgar Allen Poe. We are about at the end of the story, but I'm planning on going for 1 to 2 hours, mayhaps. Well, 1 to 2 more. But thank you, everyone, for stopping in. You guys are amazing. About noon, as nearly we could guess, our attention was again arrested by the appearance of the sun. It gave out no light, properly so called, but a dull and sullen glow without reflection. If anybody needs to raid and run, by the way, that's all fine and dandy. I'm just fine. I will be here continuing to read, so if y'all want to stay and listen, that's also fine. But remember, get some snacks, get some water, take care of yourself. It gave out no light properly so called, but a dull, sullen glow without reflection, as if all its rays were polarized. Just before sinking within the turgid sea, its central fire suddenly went out, as if hurriedly extinct. Oof. Thank you for the follow, Reload Bliss. By some unaccountable power, it was a dim, sliver-like flame alone. As it rushed down the unfathomable ocean, we waited in vain for the arrival of the sixth day. That day to me had not arrived, to the Swede never did arrive. Thenceforward, we were enshrouded in patchy darkness, so that we could not have seen an object 20 paces from the ship. Eternal night continued to envelop us, all unrelieved by the phosphoric sea, the brilliancy to which we had been accustomed in the tropics. We observed, too, that although the tempest continued to rage with unabated violence, there were no longer to be discovered the usual appearance of surf or foam, which had hitherto attended us. All around were horror, and thick gloom, and a black sweltering desert of ebony. Superstitious terror crept by degree into the spirit of the old Swede, and my own soul wrapped up in a silent wonder. We neglected all care of the ship as worse than useless, and securing ourselves as well as possible to the stump of the mizzen mast, looked out bitterly into the ocean. We had no means of calculating time, nor could we form any guess of our situation. We were, however, well aware of having made farther to the southward than any previous navigator, and felt great amazement in not meeting with the usual impediments of ice. In the meantime, every moment threatened to be our last. Every mountainous billow hurried to overwhelm us. The swell surpassed anything I had imagined possible, and that we were not instantly buried is a miracle. My companion spoke of our ship, but I could not help feeling the utter hopelessness of hope itself, and prepared myself gloomily for that death which I thought nothing could defer beyond an hour, as, with every knot of way, shipmate, the swelling of the black stupendous seas became more dismally appalling. Hello, crazy blood demonic clown. How are you, sweetie? I hope you're having a good day. We are reading Miss Found in a Bottle by Edgar Allan Poe. I'm fine. At times, we gasp for breath at an elevation beyond the albatross. At times, became dizzy with the velocity of our descent into some watery hell, where the air grew stagnant and no sound disturbed the slumbers of the kraken. Yeah, as my model also jerks around because we love to see it. We were at the bottom of one of these abysses when a quick scream from my companion broke fearfully upon the night. See, see, cried he, shrieking in my ears. Almighty God, see, see. As he spoke, I became aware of a dull, sullen glare of red light which streamed down the sides of the sea, the vast chasm where we lay, and threw a fitful brilliancy upon our deck. Casting my eyes upward, I beheld a spectacle which froze the current of my blood. At the terrific height directly above us, and upon the very verge of the precipitous descent, hovered a gigantic ship of perhaps 4,000 tons. Although upreared upon the summit of a wave more than 400 times her own altitude, her apparent size exceeded that of any ship of the line or East India man in existence. Her huge hull was of a deep, dingy black, unrelieved by any of the customary carvings of a ship. A single row of brass cannon protruded from her open ports, and dashed from their polished surfaces the fire of innumerable battle lanterns, which swung to and fro about her rigging. But what mainly inspired us with such horror and astonishment was that she bore up under a press of sail in a very teeth of that supernatural sea, and of that ungovernable hurricane. When we first discovered her, her bows were alone to be seen, as she rose slowly from the dim and horrible gulf beyond her. For a moment of intense terror, she paused upon the giddy pinnacle, as if in contemplation of her own sublimity, then trembled and tottered, and came down. At this instant, I know not what sudden self-possession came over my spirit. Staggering as far aft as I could, I awaited fearlessly the ruin that was to overwhelm. Our own vessel was at length ceasing from her struggles and sinking with her head to the sea. The shock of the descending mass struck her consequently in that portion of her frame which was already under water, and the inevitable result was to hurl me with irresistible violence upon the rigging of the stranger. As I fell, the ship hove in and went about, and to the confusion ensuing, I attributed my escape from the notice of the crew. With little difficulty, I made my way unperceived to the main hatchway, which was partially open, and soon found an opportunity of secreting myself in the hold. Why I did so, I can hardly tell. An indefinite sense of awe, which at first sight of the navigator, which at first sight of the navigators of the ship had taken hold of my mind, was perhaps the principle of my concealment. I was unwillingly to trust myself with a race of people who had offered to the cursory glance I had taken so many points of vague novelty, doubt, and apprehension. I therefore thought proper to contrive a hiding place in the hold. This I did by removing a small portion of the shifting board in such a manner as to afford me a convenient retreat between the huge timbers of the ship. I had scarcely completed my work when a footstep in the hold forced me to make use of it. A man passed by my place of concealment with a feeble and unsteady gait. I could not see his face, but had an opportunity of observing his general appearance. There was about good night, solid. Hope you have a good one. There was about it an evidence of great age and infirmity. His knees tottered beneath a load of years, and his entire frame quivered under such a burden. He muttered to himself in a low, broken tone some words of the language which I could not understand and quote. In a corner among his pile of singular-looking instruments and decayed charts of navigation. His manner was a wild mixture of the peevishness of second childhood and the solemn dignity of a god. He at length went on deck. I saw him no more. A feeling for which I have no name has taken of my soul, a sensation which will admit of no analysis, to which the lessons of bygone times are enacted, and for which I fear futurity itself will offer me no key. To a mind constituted like my own, the latter consideration is an evil. I know that I shall never be satisfied with regard to the nature of my conceptions, yet it is not wonderful that these conceptions are indefinite, since they have their origin in sources so utterly novel. A sense of new entity, a new sense, a new entity, Lord, is added to my soul. It is long since I first trod the decks of this terrible ship, and the rays of my destiny are, I think, gathering to a focus, incomprehensible men wrapped up in meditations of a kind which I cannot divine. They pass me by unnoticed. Concealment is utter folly in my part, for the people will not see. It was but just now that I passed directly before the eyes of the mate. It was no long while ago that I ventured into the captain's own private cabin, and took thence the materials with which I write and have written. I shall from time to time continue this journal. It is true that I may not find an opportunity of transmitting it to the world, but I will not fail to make an endeavor. At the last moment I will enclose the MS in a bottle and cast it within the sea. An incident occurred which had given me new room for meditation. Are such things the operation of ungoverned chance? I had ventured upon the deck and thrown myself down without attracting any notice, among the pile of rattling stuff and the old sails in the bottom of the yawl. While musing upon the singularity of my fate, I unwittingly dabbled with a tar brush the edges of a neatly folded studding sail, which lay me near which lay near me on a barrel. The studding sail is now bent upon the ship, and the thoughtless touches of the brush are now spread out into the world. Discovery. I have made many observations lately upon the structure of the vessel. Although well armed, she is not, I think, ship of war. Her rigging, build, general equipment, all negative the supposition of this kind. What is she not? I can easily perceive what she is. I fear it is impossible to say. I know not how it is, but in scrutinizing her strange model and singular cast of spars, her huge side, her huge size and overgrown suits of canvas, her severely simple bow, and antiquated board, antiquated stern, there will occasionally flash across my mind a sensation of familiar things, and there is always mixed up with such indistinct shadow of recollection, an unaccountable memory of the old-born chronicles in ages long ago. I have been looking at the timbers of the ship. She is built of a material to which I am a stranger. There is a peculiar character about the wood which strikes me as rendering it unfit for the purpose to which it has been applied. I mean its extreme porousness, considered independently by the worm-eaten condition which is a consequence of navigation in all these seas, and apart from the rottenness dependent upon age. It will appear perhaps an observation somewhat over curious, but this would have every characteristic of Spanish oak, if Spanish oak were descended by any unnatural means. In reading the above sentence, a curious aphorism of an old weather-beaten Dutch navigator comes full upon my recollection. It is as sure as was wont to say, when any doubt was entertained of his veracity, as sure as there is a sea, for the ship itself will grow in bulk like the living body of the seaman. About an hour ago, I made bold to thrust myself among a group of the crew. They paid me no manner of attention, and although I stood in the very midst of them all, seemed utterly unconscious of my presence, like the one I had at first seen in the hold. They all bore about them the marks of a hoary old age. Their knees trembled with infirmity, their shoulders were bent double with decrepitude, their shriveled skins rattled in the wind, their voices were low, tremulous, and broken, their eyes glistened with the rum of beer, and their gray hair streamed terribly in the tempest around them. On every part of the deck lay scattered mathematical instruments of the most quaint and obsolete construction. I mentioned some time ago the bending and stuttering of a sail. From that period, the ship being thrown dead off the wind, had continued her terrific course due south, with every rag of canvas backed upon her, from her trucks to her lower studding sail boom, and rolling every moment her top-gallant yard arms into the most appalling hell of water which it could enter into the mind of a man to imagine. I have just left the deck, where I find it impossible to maintain a footing. Although the crew seem to experience little inconvenience, it appears to me a miracle of miracles that our enormous bulk is not swallowed up at once and forever. We surely are doomed to hover continually on the brink of eternity, without taking a final plunge into the abyss, from billows 1,000 times more stupendous than any I have ever seen. We glide away with the facility of the arrowy seagull, and the colossal water rear their heads above, like demons of the deep, but like demons, confined to simple threads, and forbidden to destroy. I am led to attribute these frequent escapes to the only natural cause which can account for each of such events. I must suppose the ship to be within the influence of some strong current or impetuous undertaking. I have seen the captain face to face, and in his own cabin, but as I expected, he paid me no attention, although in his appearance there is to a casual observer nothing which might bespeak him more or less than a man. Still feeling the irrepressible reverence and awe mingled with the sensation of wonder with which I regarded him. In stature he nearly my own height, that is, about 5 feet 8 inches. He is of a well-knit and compact frame of body, neither robust nor remarkably otherwise, but it is the singularity of expression which reigns upon the face. It is intense, the wonderful, the thrilling evidence of old age, so utter, so extreme, which excites within my spirit a sense a sentiment ineffable. His forehead, although little wrinkled, seems to bear upon it the stamp of a myriad of years. His gray hairs are records of peace, and his grayer eyes are symbols of the future. The cabin was thickly strewn with strange and iron-clad folios and moldering instruments of trade, and obsolete, long-forgotten charts. His head was bowed down upon his hands as he pored with a fiery, unquiet eye over a book which I took to be a commission, and which, at all events, bore the signature of a monarch. He muttered to himself, as did the first seaman whom I saw in the hold, some low, peevish syllables of a foreign tongue, and although the speaker was close at my elbow, his voice seemed to reach my ears from the distance of a mile. The ship and all in it are imbued with the spirit of Elf. The crew glide to and fro like ghosts of buried centuries. Their eyes have an eager and uneasy meaning, and when their fingers fall athwart my path in the wild glare of the battle lanterns, I feel as I've never felt before. Although I have been my whole life a dealer in antiquities, and have imbibed, 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 Lord, the shadows of fallen columns of Baalbek and Tadmor and Persepolis until my very soul had become a ruin. When I look around me, I feel ashamed of my former apprehensions. If I trembled at the blast which has hitherto ended us, shall I not stand aghast at a pouring wind and ocean to convey any idea of which the words tornado and simoon are trivial and ineffective? All the immediate vicinity of the ship is the blackness of eternal night, and the chaos of foamless water, but about a league on either side of us, may be seen indistinctly, and at intervals stupendous ramparts of ice towering away into the desolate sky, and looking like the walls of the universe. As I imagine the ship proves to be in a current, as that appellation can properly be given to a tide which, howling and shrieking by the white ice, thunders on to the southward with a velocity like the headlong dashing of a cataract. To conceive the horror of my sensation is, I presume, utterly impossible, yet curiously, to penetrate the mysteries of these awful regions, predominates even over my despair, and will reconcile me to the most hideous aspect of death. It is evident that we are hurrying onwards to some exciting knowledge, some never to be imparted secret, whose attainment is destruction. Perhaps this current leads us to the southern pole itself. It must be confessed that a supposition apparently so wide has every probability in his favor. The crew paced the deck with unquiet and tremulous steps, but there is upon countenances an expression more of the eagerness of hope than the apathy of despair. In the meantime, the wind is still in our poop, and as we carry the crowd of canvas, the ship is at times lifted bodily from out to sea. Oh, horror upon horror! The ice opens suddenly to the right and to the left, and we were whirling dizzily in immense concentric circles, round and round the borders of a gigantic amphitheater, the summit of whose walls lost in the darkness. In the distance, a little time will be left me to ponder upon my destination. The circles rapidly crowd. Small, we are plunging madly within the grasp of the whirlpool, and amid a roaring and bellowing and thundering of ocean and of tempest, the ship is quivering, oh God, and going down. The notes of this story are: The Mist Found in a Bottle was originally published in 1831, and it was not until many years afterwards that I became acquainted with the map of Mercator, in which the ocean is represented as Russia. By 4 months into the northern polar gulf, to be absorbed into the bowels of the earth, the pole itself being represented by a black rock towering prodigious height. That was the story of Miss Found in a Bottle. Pretty good story, honestly. I was wondering where it was going, but yeah, it's pretty neat. Now, let's see which one next. We might go back to poetry because the poetry was a bit shorter than that. Oh goodness. Hi everyone. I hope you are all doing well. I'm sorry I didn't really get to read the raid properly. I wanted to not lose my place in the book, but if y'all are still here, that's neat. I hope the shout out worked. Anyways, the next one we're going to read is The Raven. Let me drink some water first. This one is called The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious of volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, but vainly I had sought to borrow from my book of surcease of sorrow for the lost Lenore, or the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, is some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door? Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This was it, and nothing more. Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was not, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping, tapping at my chamber door, that I was scarce but sure I heard you here. I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was the whispered, oh, thank you, Jella, for this subscription. Thank you, darling. Look at the raining, look at the rainbows. Look, guys, it's so beautiful. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word Lenore. Merely this, nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me blew. Soon I heard again tapping, somewhat louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. Just the wind, and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, and there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not an instant stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched upon my chamber door, perched upon the bust palace just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, and by the grave stern decor of the countenance I wore, so thy crest be shorn, shaven thou, I said, are sure no craven, ghastly grim, an ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly foal to hear discourse so gently, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore, and we cannot help but agree that no living wandering bird upon the chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust upon the palace door, with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore, startled at the stillness broken by replies so aptly spoken. Doubtless, said I, what it utters is only stock and store, taught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul to smiling, straight I wheeled a cushion seat in front of the bird, and bust and door. Then, on the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking, fancy thinking what this ominous bird adore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, nevermore. This I sat and gazed and guessing, but no syllable expressing to the full, whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamp floated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight floating o'er, she so pressed, ah, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, flung by angels whose faint footfalls tinkled on the cleft floor. Wretch, I cried, that God had lent thee, by these angels that he had sent thee, respite, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff, this kind nepenthe and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil prophet still, if bird or devil, whether temperature sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here or desolate, yet all undaunted, on this desert land, enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm of Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden it shall clasp, fuck, my bad. Sorry about that, darling. I will be a little louder. So, I am reading a story. My apologies for not being loud enough. Let me see if this helps. Does this help a little bit? Does this help, dear? I want to make sure that everybody can hear me. And thank you for... Thank you. Prophet, said I, thing of evil prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden you shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare, radiant maiden, who the angels named Lenore. Both the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shriek. My bad. Thank you for the follow, Green. I hope you're having a good night. I hope that my voice is not deafening. Lord help me. That was a little bit scary, just a tiny bit, guys. Be that our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shriek of starting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black gloom as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, with thy bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Both the raven, nevermore, and the raven never flitting, still is stirring, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him dreaming throws his shadow on the floor, and on my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. That's... You don't want to do one I already did, so let's see. We're gonna go to this one. We're gonna read The Telltale Heart, because I feel like people know that one. Give me just a second. Take a sip of water. Hi. Alright. This one is The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allen Poe. True. Nervous. Very, very dreadfully nervous I had been and am. But why will you say that I am mad? The disease had sharpened my senses, not destroyed. Not dulled them. Above all was the sense of hearing acute. I heard all things in the heaven and in the earth. I heard many things in hell. How then am I mad? Hearken, and observe how healthily, how calmly I can tell you the whole story. It is impossible to say how first the idea entered my brain, but once conceived, it haunted me day and night. Object there was none. Passion there was none. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. He had never given me insult for his gold. I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes, it was this. He had the eye of a vulture, a pale blue eye with a film over it. When it fell upon me, my blood ran cold, and so by degrees, very gradually, I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and thus rid myself of the eye forever. Now this point, you fancy me mad. Madmen know nothing, but you should have seen me. You should have seen how wisely I proceeded, with what caution, with what foresight, with what dissimulation I went to work. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him, and every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it, oh, so gently. And then, when I made an opening sufficient for my head, I put in a dark lantern, all closed, so that no light shined through. And then I thrust in my head. Oh, you would have laughed to see how cuttingly I thrust it in. I moved it slowly, very, very slowly, so that I might not disturb the old man's sleep. It took me an hour to place my whole head within the opening so far that I have see him as he lay upon his bed. Ha! What a mad have been so wild, sis. And then, when my head was well in the room, I undid the lantern cautiously. Oh, so cautiously. Cautiously. For the hinges creaked. I undid it just so much that a single thin ray fell upon the vulture eye. And this I did for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight. But I found the eye always closed, so it was impossible for me to do the work. For it was not the old man who vexed me, but his evil eye. And every morning, when the day broke, I went boldly into the chamber and spoke courageously to him, calling him by name in hearty tone, and inquiring how he had passed the night. So you see, he would have been a very profound old man indeed, to suspect that every night, just at 12, I looked in upon him as he slept. Upon the 8th night, I was more than usually cautious in opening the door. I watched the minute hand move more quickly than did mine. Never before that night had I felt the extent of my own powers, of my sagacity. I could scarcely contain my feelings of triumph to think that here I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even dream of my secret deeds or thoughts. I fairly chuckled at the idea, and perhaps he heard me, for he moved on the bed suddenly as if startled. Now you may think that I drew back, but no. His room was as black as pitch, with the thick darkness, for the shutters were close fastened through the fear of robbers, and so I knew he could not see the opening of the door. And I kept pushing it on, steadily, steadily. I had my head in and was about to open the lantern, when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in the bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime I did not hear him lie down. He was still up stirring in the bed, listening, just as I have done night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the walls. Presently I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror. It was not a groan of pain or of grief. Oh no, it was the low, stifled sound that arises from the bottom of the soul when overcharged with awe. I knew the sound well. Many a night, just at midnight, when all the world slept, it had welled up from my own bosom, deepening with its dreadful echo the terrors that distracted me. I say I knew it well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him. Although I chuckled at heart, I knew he had been lying awake ever since the first slight noise. When he had turned in the bed, his fears had ever since been growing upon him. He had been trying to fancy them causeless, but could not. He had been saying to himself, "It is nothing but the wind in the chimney. It is only a mouse crossing the floor. It is merely a cricket which had made a single chirp." Yes, he had been trying to comfort himself with these suppositions, but he had found all in vain. All in vain, because death, in approaching him, had stalked with black shadow before him and enveloped the victim. And it was the mournful influence of the unperceived shadow that caused him to feel, although he neither saw nor heard, to feel the presence of my head within the room. When I had waited a long time, very patiently, without hearing him lie down, I resolved to open a very, very little crevice in the lantern. So I opened it. You cannot imagine how stealthily, until at length a small, simple, dim ray, like the thread of a spider, shot out from the crevice that fell upon the wall dry. It was open, wide open, and I grew furious as I gazed upon it. I saw with perfect distinctness all the dull blue with a hideous veil over it that chilled the very marrow in my bones. But I could see nothing else of the old man's face or person, for I had directed the ray by instinct precisely upon the damp spot. And have I not told you that what you mistake for madness is but over acuteness of a sense? Now, I say there came to my ears a low, dull, quick sound, such as that a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I knew the sound well, too. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury, as the beating of the drum stimulates the soldier into courage. But even yet I refrained and kept still. I scarcely breathed. I held upon the lantern motionless. I tried how steadily I could maintain the ray upon the eye. Meantime, the hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, and louder every instant. The old man's terror must have been extreme. It grew louder, I say, louder in every moment. Do you mark me well? I have told you that I am nervous. So I am. And now, at the dead hour of the night, amid the dreadful silence of the old house, so strange a noise as this excited me to uncontrollable terror. Yet for some minutes longer, I refrained and stood still. The beating grew louder. Louder, I thought the heart must burst. Now, a new anxiety seized me. The sound would be heard by a neighbor. The old man's hour had come. With a loud yell, I threw open the lantern and leaped into the room. He shrieked once only. In an instant, I dragged him to the floor and pulled the heavy bed over him. I smiled gaily to find the deed so far done, but for many minutes the heart beat on with a muffled step. This, however, did not vex me. It would not be heard through the wall. At length it ceased. The old man was dead. I removed the bed and examined the corpse. Yes, he was stone dead. I placed my hand upon the heart and held it there many minutes. There was no pulsation. He was stone dead, and his eye would trouble me no more. If you still think me mad, you will think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took for the concealment of the body. The night waned, and I worked hastily but in silence. First of all, I dismembered the corpse. I cut off the head, the arms, and legs. I then took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and deposited all between the scantlings. I then replaced the board so cleverly, so cunningly, that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. There was nothing to wash out, no stain of any kind, no blood spot whatever. I had been too wary for that. A tug had caught all. When I had made an end of these labors, it was 4 o'clock, still dark as midnight. As the bell sounded the hour, there came a knocking at the street door. I went down to open it with a light heart, for what had I now to fear? And there entered 3 men, who introduced themselves with perfect suavity as members or officers of the police. A shriek had been heard by a neighbor during the night. Suspicion of foul play had been aroused. Information had been lodged at the police office, and they, the officers, had been deputed to search the premises. I smiled, for what had I to fear? I bade the gentleman welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man I mentioned was absent in the country. I took my visitors all over the house. I bade them search well. I led them at length to his chambers. I showed them his treasures, secure, undisturbed. In the enthusiasm of my confidence, I brought chairs into the room. And desired them here to rest from their fatigues, while I myself, the wild audacity of my perfect triumph, placed my own seat upon the very spot beneath which reposed the corpse of the victim. The officers were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. I was singularly at ease. They sat, and while I answered cheerily, they chatted of familiar things, but ere long I felt myself getting pale, and wished them gone. My head ached, and I fancied a ringing in my ears, but they sat and chatted, the ringing more distinct. It continued, and became more distinct. I talked more freely to get rid of the feeling, but it continued and gained definiteness, until at length I found that the noise was not within my ears. No doubt I now grew very pale, but I talked more fluently, with a heightened voice, yet the sound increased. Thank you for the follow, booty eating pig. I love the name. The name is fantastic. It was a low, dull, quick sound, much such a sound a watch makes when enveloped in cotton. I gasped for breath. Welcome in. That is a beautiful emote. I am glad to seeing it thrown at me made me giggle a bit. Welcome in, darling. Welcome to the cuddle cult. I gasped for breath, and yet the officers heard it not. I talked more quickly, more vehemently, but the noise steadily increased. I arose and argued about trifles in a high key and with violent gesticulations, and but the noise steadily increased. Why would they not be gone? I paced the floor to and fro with heavy strides, as if excited to fury by observations of the men. But the noise steadily increased. Oh God, what could I do? I foamed, I raved, I swore, I swung. The chair upon which I had been sitting and grated it upon the boards, but the noise arose over it continually. Good night, Blood Moon. I hope you have a good night. Wow, I keep calling you Blood Moon. Good night, Blood. I hope you have a nice night. Thunder Ninja, how are you doing, sweetie? Welcome in. But the noise arose over all and continuously increased. It grew louder, louder, louder. And still the men chatted pleasantly and smiled. Was it possible they heard not? Almighty God, no. No, they knew. They heard. They suspected. They knew. They were making a mockery of my horror. This I thought, and this I think. But anything was better than this agony. Anything was more tolerable than this derision. I could bear those hypocritical smiles no longer. I felt that I must scream or die. And now, again, hark. Louder, 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 louder. Villains, I shrieked. Dissemble no more. I admit the deed. Tear up the planks. Here, here. It is the beating of his hideous heart. Let's see, which one can we do now? I think we should do. I think we should do the Task of Amontillado. I like that one. That one's nice. I'm also trying to get to the stories that some people know. I know I read Annabelle Lee earlier, but I want to make sure that everyone gets the nostalgia of the school days, you know? When everyone was around. Anyways. The 1,000 injuries of Fortunato I had bore as I best could, but when he ventured upon insult, I vowed revenge. You, who so well know the nature of my soul, will not suppose, however, that I gave utterance to a threat. At length, I would be avenged. This was a point definitively settled, but the very definitiveness with which it was resolved precluded the idea of risk. I must not only punish, but punish with impunity. A wrong is unredressed when retribution overtakes its redresser. It is equally unredressed when the avenger fails to make himself felt as such, so to him who has done the wrong. It must be understood that by neither word nor deed had I given Fortunato cause to doubt my goodwill. I continued, as was my will, to smile in his face, and he did not perceive that my smile now was at the thought of his immolation. He had a weak point, this Fortunato, although, in order In other regards, he was a man to be respected and even feared. He prided himself on the connoisseurship in wine. Few Italians have the true virtuoso spirit. For the most part, their enthusiasm to suit the time and opportunity. To practice imposture upon the British and Austrian millionaires. In painting and gemmery, Fortunato, like his countryman, was a quack, but in the matter of old wines he was sincere. In this respect I did not differ from him materially. I was as skilful in the Italian vintages myself, and bought largely whenever I could. It was about dusk, one evening during the supreme madness of the carnival season, I encountered my friend. He accosted me with excessive warmth, for he had been drinking much. The man wore motley, and he had a tight-fitting party-striped dress, and his head was surmounted by the conical cap and bells. I was so pleased to see him that I thought I should never have done wringing his hand. I said to him, "My dear Fortunato, you are luckily met. How remarkably well you are looking today. But I have received a pipe of what passes for Amontillado, and I have my doubts." "How?" said he. "Amontillado? A pipe? Impossible. And in the middle of the carnival." "I have my doubts," I replied, "and I was silly enough to pay the full Amontillado price, without consulting you in the matter. You were not to be found, and I was fearful of losing a bargain. Amontillado? I have my doubts. Amontillado, and I must satisfy them. Amontillado. As you are engaged, I am on my way to Jesse. If anyone has a critical turn, it is he. He will tell me. Luchesi cannot tell Amontillado from sherry, and yet some fools will have it that his taste is a match for your own. Come, let us go." "Whither?" said I. "To your vault," said he. "My friend, no, I will not impose upon your good nature. I perceive you have an engagement, Luchesi." "I have no engagement. Come." "My friend, no, it is not the engagement, but the severe cold with which I perceive you are afflicted. The vaults are insufferably damp, and they are encrusted with nitre. Let us go, nevertheless. The cold is merely nothing. Amontillado, you have been imposed upon. And as for Luchesi, he cannot distinguish sherry from Amontillado." And thus speaking, Fortunato possessed himself of my arm, putting on a mask of black silk, and drawing a reliquaire closely about my person. I suffered him to hurry to my palazzo. There was no attendance at home. They had absconded to make merry in honor of the time. I had told them that I should not return until the morning, and had given them explicit orders not to stir from the house. These orders were sufficient, I well knew, to ensure their immediate disappearance, one and all. As soon as my back was turned, I took from their sconces 2 flambeaux, and giving one to Fortunato, bowed him through several suites of rooms to the archway that led into the vaults. I passed down a long and winding staircase, requesting him to be cautious as he followed. We came in the length to the foot of the descent, and stood together on the damp ground of the catacomb of the Montresors. The gait of my friend was unsteady, and the bells upon his cap jingled as he strode. "The pipe," he said. "It is further on," said I, "but observe the white webwork that gleams from these cavern walls." He turned towards me and looked into my eyes with 2 filmy orbs that distilled from the rum of intoxication. Niter? He asked at length. Niter, I replied. How long have you had that cough? Cue coughing noises that I'm not reading because I feel like that would be a pain. My friend found it impossible to reply for many minutes. It is nothing, he said at last. Come, I said with decision. We will go back. Your health, precious? You are rich, respected, admired, beloved. You are happy as I once was. You are a man to be missed. For me, it is no better. We will go back. You will be ill, and I cannot be responsible. Besides, there is Lucchesi. Enough, he said. The cough is merely nothing. It will not kill me. I shall not die of a cough. True, true, I replied. And indeed, I had no intention of alarming you unnecessarily. But you should use all proper precaution. A draught of this Medoc will help defend us from the damps. I knocked off the neck of the bottle, which I drew from the long row of its fellows that lay upon the mould. Drink, I said, presenting him the wine. He raised it to his lips with a leer. He paused and nodded to me familiarly, while his bells jingled. I drink, he said, to the buried that repose around us, and I to your long life. He again took my arm as he proceeded. These vaults, he said, are extensive. The Montresors, I replied, were a great and numerous family. I forget your arms. A huge human foot adorned the field ashore. The foot crushes a serpent rampant, whose fangs are embedded in the heel. And the motto? Nemo me impune placet. Good, he said. The wine sparkled in his eyes, and the bells jingled. My own fancy grew warm with the Medoc. We had passed through the walls of piled bones, the cask and puncheons, intermingling into the inmost recesses of the catacombs. I paused again. This time I made bold to seize Fortunato by the arm above the elbow. The nitre, I said, see, it increases. It hangs like moss upon the... We are below the river's bed. The drops of moisture trickle upon the bones. Come, we will go back ere it's too late. Your cough, it is nothing. Let us go, he said. But first another draught of the Medoc. I broke and reached him a flachon of de Grave. He emptied it at a breath. His eyes flashed with fierce light. He laughed and threw the bottle upward, with a gesticulation I did not understand. I looked at him in surprise. He repeated the movement, a grotesque one. You do not comprehend, he said. Not I replied. Then you are not a brotherhood. How? You are not of the Masons. Yes, yes, I said. Yes, yes. You? Impossible. A Mason? A Mason, I replied. A sign, he said. A sign. It is this, I answered, producing from beneath the folds of my reliquary a trowel. You jest. He exclaimed, recoiling a few paces. Let us proceed to the Amontillado. Be it so, I said, replacing the tool beneath the cloak and again offering it in my arm. He leaned upon it heavily. We continued in our route in search of the Amontillado. We passed through a range of low arches, descended past on, and descending again arrived at the deep crypt in which the foulness of the air caused our flambeaux to rather glow than flame. At the most remote end of the crypt there appeared another less spacious. Its walls had been lined with human remains piled to the vault overhead. in the fashion of the gray catacombs of Paris. Three sides of this interior crypt were still ornamented by this manner. From the bones had been thrown down and lay promiscuously across the earth, forming at one point a mound of some size. Within the wall thus exposed by the displacing of the bones, I perceived a still internal recess, in depth about 4 feet, in width 3, in height 6 or 7. Ew, 6, 7. Anyway, it seemed to have been constructed for no especial use in itself, but formed merely an interval between the two of the colossal supports of the roof of the catacombs, and was backed by one of their circumscribing walls of solid granite. It was in vain that Fortunato, upon lifting his dull torch, endeavored to pry into the depths of the recess. His termination, the feeble light did not enable us to see. Proceed, I said. Therein is the Amontillado. As for Luchesi, he is an ignoramus, interrupted my friend as he stepped unsteadily forward. I followed immediately at his heels. In an instant he reached the extremity of the niche, and finding his progress arrested by a rug, stood stupidly bewildered. A moment more, and I had fettered him into the granite. In its surface were two iron staples distant from each other about 2 feet horizontally. From one of these depended a short chain, from the other a padlock. Throwing the links around his waist, it was but the work of a few seconds to secure it. He was too much astounded to resist. Withdrawing the key, I stepped back from the recess. Pass your hand. Over the wall, you cannot help but feeling the niter. Indeed, it is very damp. Once more, let me implore you to return. No? Then I must positively leave you. But first, I must render you all the little attentions in my power. The Amontillado, ejaculated my friend, not yet fully recovered from his astonishment. True, I replied, the Amontillado. As I said these words, I busied myself among the pile of bones which I have before spoken. Throwing them aside, I soon uncovered a quantity of the building stone and mortar. With all these materials, and the aid of my trowel, I began vigorously to wall up the entrance of the niche. I scarcely laid the first tier of my masonry when I discovered that the intoxication of Fortunato had in great measure worn off. The earliest indication I had of this was a low moaning cry from the depths of the recess. It was not a cry of a drunken man. There was a long, obstinate silence. I laid the second tier, and the third, and the fourth. And then I heard the furious vibrations of the chain. The noise lasted for several minutes, during which that I might hearken to it with more satisfaction, I ceased my labors and sat down on the bones. When at last the clanking subsided, I resumed the trowel and unfinished with interruption the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th tier. The wall was now nearly upon a level within my breast. I again paused, and holding the flambeau over the mason work, threw a feeble few rays upon the figure within. A succession of loud, shrill screams, bursting suddenly from the throat of the chained form, seemed to thrust me violently back. For a moment I hesitated. I trembled. Unsheathing my rapier, I began to grope with it about the recess. But the thought of an instant reassured me. I placed my hand upon the solid fabric of the catacombs and felt satisfied. I reapproached the wall. I replied to the yells of him who clamored. I re-echoed. I aided. I surpassed them in volume and in strength. I did this, and the clamorer grew still. It was now midnight, and my task was drawing to a close. I had now completed the 8th, the 9th, and the 10th. I had finished the portion of the last and the 11th. There remained but a single stone to be fitted and plastered in. I struggled with its weight. I placed it partially in its destined position, but now there came out a niche low laugh that erected from the airs of my head. It was succeeded by a sad voice, which I had difficulty recognizing as that of the noble Fortunato. The voice said, "A very good joke indeed, an excellent jest. We will have many a rich laugh about the palazzo." Over our wine. The amontillado? Yes, the amontillado. But is it not getting late? Will they not be awaiting us at the palazzo? Lady Fortunato and the rest? Let us be gone. Yes, I said, let us be gone. For the love of God, Montresor. Yes, for the love of God. But to these words I hearkened in vain for a reply. I grew impatient. I called aloud. Fortunato. No answer. I called again. Fortunato. No answer still. I thrust the torch through the remaining aperture and let it fall within. There came a fourth in return, only a jingling of bells. My heart grew sick. It was the dampness of the catacombs that made it so. I hastened to make an end of my labor. I forced the last stone into its position and plastered it up. Against the new masonry, I re-erected the old rampart of bones. For the half of a century, no mortal had disturbed them. In pace, Brooksville. Yay! We did it, guys. Oh my goodness. Alright, I think that's enough of that. Thank you all for coming in. We're going to find someone to raid out to. Let's see what kind of ASMR channels we can find. We'll do this one. I feel like this one will work. Shoot. Less than 100. Oh god. Oh god. We'll do this one. Thank you everyone for coming in. We are going to start our raid. I love you all. Thank you all for coming. We are going to raid Lumet. Everyone, let's go be nice to this sweetheart. I love you all. Thank you for everything. Thank you for being you. You guys are amazing. I care about you all lots. I appreciate everything you do. You guys are amazing. We shall go say hi to this lovely person.